conscious clothing conversation paired with real talk. I'm Sam, the healing hardware creator, and I'm hella hyped to get a little naked with you. All right, y'all. Hey, y'all. Hey. Mic check 1 2 1 2. I'm back in the space to be. And I know it's been a while since I've recorded an episode, but y'all, I've been working, okay? And if you don't know by now, it's usually me behind all of these things. It's a lot. I really am aware of many hats. So if you know an entrepreneur, if you are an entrepreneur, well, if you know one, go ahead and send them lunch and give them a big hug or something, because I guarantee they're probably doing the most. But if you are an entrepreneur, big hugs to you, because I know there's a lot of things on your brain. If you're creative, I know there's a lot of things on your mind. Hell, if you're just a human being existing in this world, you might be going through some shit. And for that, we have to extend ourselves grace and know that the things will get done, and we just have to take our time through it. And when we take opportunities to pace ourselves through the process, it really makes it that much better. So I'm excited to come back to this thing full thrust, full throttle, and sharing my experiences and my stories, and starting one with being able to reshare some of the stories that I've been discussing on other podcasts and platforms. It's important that I share what I am doing in other spaces. And this one particular episode of the School of Healing podcast, I am talking with Dominiece Clifton, who is the founder of said podcast, and also a homie who we connected some time ago. We were actually on a podcast, hosting the podcast. But it didn't go anywhere. But the enthusiasm and the spark never died. So we each individually decided to just continue keeping that momentum for ourselves. So I'm proud of her. Way to go, sis. And I think you should listen to these gems. So I present to you the School of Healing podcast with Dominiece Clifton, featuring myself, Sam Smith.
Hey guys, what's up? So before I jump into today's episode, I have some super exciting news to share. Drum roll, please. I wrote a book, y'all. The book guides you to cultivate more self-awareness so that you can begin to release emotions, painful memories, and experiences that may be holding you back from living your best life. In Hold Space to Heal, I also very vulnerably share parts of myself in hopes that my story will awaken you to the fact that healing is possible for you too. And now, because healing is an all-encompassing process, I also provide you with tools to mend your mind, body, and spirit, because we know that we cannot neglect any parts of ourselves. In addition, I share 7 somatic approaches that will help you to heal your body, as well as carefully considered journaling prompts and healing stories from others to aid you through a process of releasing, reconnecting, and remembering the most authentic version of yourself. I cannot wait for you to read this book because I know it will change your life. So go ahead and click the link in my bio to get your copy today. And please come back and let me know what you think after you've read it. Information to connect with me can also be found in the show notes. Welcome to the School of Healing, a podcast brought to you by Move and Still. I'm your host and guide, Dominiece Clifton. This podcast is for entrepreneurs and working professionals that are seeking a new way. For years, you've tried to follow the programming and rules of the world, but you still find yourself burned out, unfulfilled, and questioning the deeper meaning behind life. The School of Healing is designed to help you live more aligned and authentically, instead of chasing external expectations or trying to make yourself fit into a box. Each episode is created to help you shed, decondition, and release all of the things that you've been told to be that are no longer serving you. This journey is about remembering. You don't have anything more to heal. You just have to stand in the knowingness that you are already healed and remind other people of this truth as you enjoy your life. Life is meant to be full. I am so glad you answered your soul's calling, and I am so glad you are here. Now let's grow and evolve together so that we make the most out of this beautiful lifetime. Hi, my loves. Welcome to our first official conversation, I guess, of season 2. At this point, I've put out a solo episode, but today I'm actually sharing a conversation that I recorded a couple of months ago, but it didn't make it onto season 1. So the conversation today is with a fellow entrepreneur and friend of mine, Sam Smith. You might know her as New Vintage by Sam if you follow her on social media, or you might know her as by her work. She is the designer behind Healing Hardware, and she is a creativepreneur, right? She is all about how we can incorporate more soul into our style and really having more conscious clothing conversations. I'm really excited because she also recently released her first book, Dressed in Motherhood, which you can learn more about if you're interested, with information in the show notes. But Sam is just an amazing person. I've had the pleasure of knowing her and knowing her intimately, I will say, for maybe about 2 years now. We connected sometime during COVID, but y'all know how timelines are when it comes to COVID. It's it happened at some point, but I can't really remember. But we had a really beautiful conversation a couple of months ago, and I'm really excited to just kick off season 2 with our conversation. So just so you have an idea of some of the things that we talked about during this episode, we discuss Sam's journey to entrepreneurship and how she got started. And I think that these sorts of conversations with all types of entrepreneurs are important because sometimes we can think that entrepreneurship has to look a certain way and you have to have certain credentials or, cross and check off certain boxes. And from all of the conversations that I've had with folks that are in the entrepreneur realm, whether that's full-time or a side hustle or whatever, it doesn't typically unfold the way that we may think. And so I believe that having more of these conversations is important because it lets people know you can start wherever you are and your journey will always continue to evolve. And that's just a part of what entrepreneurship is like. We also talk about her past experiences with some of her own life experiences and, maybe her own trauma. And we talk about how this has shaped her business and what healing and evolving has looked like for her as the woman that she is today in this particular season that she's in her life today. And so again, just reflecting on the past and the ways that the past has really helped her to evolve and become who she is today. And then we also explore with Sam being a more seasoned entrepreneur, how she has really built this culture that she wants to carry forward as she works with others. So one of the things that I admire about Sam is that, again, as a more seasoned entrepreneur, she has really created this container in her business where she has boundaries and work. And, she's very clear with the way that she communicates with her customers. And, she's found her people, I will say. And I really appreciate that about her and just really try to take in bits and pieces of what I see in the way that she emulates this so that I can bring some of those pieces into my work and really embody some of those boundaries and just creating culture in my own work. So that's a little bit about what we talk about today. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the episode because it's a really good one. And I hope that it is helpful for you. I hope that you get something out of it. If you do, of course, shout out, let me know, hit me up on Instagram and let me know what you found valuable from today's lesson. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into this conversation with Sam Smith. So I am here with Sam Smith, a friend, all the things. I'll put you in the friend category before all the things, and we'll talk more about our relationship, I'm sure, as we go in. But Sam, how are you today?
I feel wonderful. I feel really good. Really good. How about you?
I am doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm really excited about our interview today. I know we first touched base a while ago, so I'm glad that we finally got to be here. And I know that you're going to drop some gems for the listeners today. So thank you so much for joining me for the call. All right, let's see. So Sam Smith, you are a healing hardware designer. You are a creativepreneur, and you are on a mission to infuse more soul into style and energize a conscious clothing conversation. Now, before we even jump into all of that,
I've been doing something fun. I'm going to come back to that because I want you to talk a bit more about your vision and, conscious clothing and why that's important. But I want to do something fun that I started with my guest a little while ago. So if you will indulge me, we're going to do a couple of lightning round questions. Is that okay?
Let's go.
Okay, so there's only a few, and obviously, first thing that comes to mind. So the first question is, do you watch shows one episode at a time, or do you binge the whole season at once?
If I love it and I have access to binge, I'm binging. If they're going to give me a slow drip, then I'll have to watch it as they roll it out.
What's the most recent show that you binged?
Ooh, Legendary.
I haven't watched that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I got to check that out. All right. So what have you been listening to on repeat these days?
I've really been enjoying Kendrick Lamar.
Okay. I'm here for that. I've listened to his new album and it gives what it needs to give.
It's a feeling for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Third question is, what never fails to make you laugh?
I just love a good joke. I love a good joke. Just levity in any situation I think is necessary. Just don't take things too seriously. Laugh.
I agree. Your ideal date night?
Oh, girl. Good food and an adventure.
Yeah. And you need both, right?
That's the one. We gotta have
the food.
Food.
Yes. I love it. I'm here for that. And the last one is, what has been your favorite age or maybe decade so far? And then share a bit about why.
Always the one I'm in right now. I just feel like I'm better than I was yesterday, and I'm the youngest that I'll ever be right now. And I'm just still thirsty and vibrant, and I'll always be that way. I just feel like I'm forever. So.
I know that's right. I love it. Forever. Thank you for that. I love those because it just gives me an opportunity, like a little snippet who I'm talking to. Okay, so let's get back to this conversation around conscious clothing. I am curious, what inspired you to focus on conscious clothing conversations, focus so much of the work that you do on conscious clothing? And so start there. And then also, I think in talking about conscious clothing, if you can just share a bit about who you are, because I think who you are and that, what conscious clothing is and why you care about that, it's also a part of who you are.
Yes, I guess I can kind of put it all in a nice little melting pot because my story, the story of me, begins when I feel like 4 or 5 years old. I just loved to sketch, design, and draw clothing. It was so weird because I would literally pick up my mom's magazines and she would order from the catalogs all the time, like Newport News, Victoria's Secret, like different kinds of catalogs. So I would just find myself tracing over the models in those pages. What I loved is that I just was able to recreate just by looking and just kind of using my own imagination to re-envision the pieces. But then as I grew older, I was like, so I had to really try to find myself and what my fashion aesthetic was through these other places, because not everybody, in the fashion space, I did not feel like it was inclusive as I was growing up. So it was really like, the black girls wear the thick black girls, I need the girls with real thigh meat and all of those things I didn't see for myself. So it turned into really me pulling out and having fun with clothes in a different kind of way that looked like going thrifting and just going to different vintage shops to get a wider assortment of options, because what I was seeing in the stores didn't really resonate with me. But most importantly, my whole energy surrounding clothing is always about everyone deserves to feel their best and look their best. And I recognized early on that fashion is like a language, your outfit really speaks for you before you walk into a room. And oftentimes I recognized that folks were judged for what they were wearing and what they weren't wearing. So I just, understood that dynamic from an early age. So I always made a conscious effort to use my outfit as a political statement. Even in high school, just at a certain point, I wasn't necessarily the most favorable. I didn't know. You know me, girl, I vibe high anyway. So I was like, okay, well, these girls are giving, they're not feeling me right now. So one day I went to Hot Topic and I got a t-shirt that says, obviously, I'm socially unacceptable. But I just think those kinds of things are hilarious. And to see the emotion that it invoked from even the girls in the school, by 6th period, they had made signs and actually taped them onto their t-shirts that said, obviously, we don't care. So I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, so, but you see me though. Like, but you see me though. So, so it really started just from when I was a kid and just continued to evolve. One, because I had to get creative with clothing because my parents weren't spending an arm and a leg on some, Jordan sneakers or anything else that they felt like, girl, you're going to go to school and get this scuffed up and messed up anyway. And, or we don't want you to be a target out here in these streets if people like what you're wearing and now they want to take it off of your back. So just those kinds of conversations just help me to like shape my philosophy around clothing. And that's why I always play more in the style space than fashion, because fashion can tend to seem and feel a little pretentious, like, these 5 fashion houses, Louis and Gucci and Prada and so forth. But ultimately, they look at us for the inspiration. You know what I mean? They go to the streets for just getting that little creative insight. So my focus is really just to empower folks to tap into their own creativity and find their own style, because if we understand that clothing speaks for you, we want it to be authentic and we want it to feel good. So that way your true energy can shine versus like the clothes are wearing you, if that makes sense.
Yes. I love that. You said fashion is like a language. And I was like, ooh, like that's so good. And I've never thought about it that way before. Like, obviously, sometimes we do think about the things that we put on, but fashion as a language that speaks, like you said, before you even say a word, as soon as you walk into the room, it's already like giving a whole message. So that's really strong. That's really strong. One thing that you talked about, and I know that you and I have talked about this in the past, is this whole thing about fashion not being very inclusive. And I think it's made some strides, right? Like 2022, it's made some strides. But how did it impact you, growing up, not really seeing yourself in the fashion industry? Like, did it impact your self-esteem? Did it impact your dreams? Can you just talk a bit about that?
Can I say hell yes? Okay.
Yes, I can say hell yes.
I would say it screwed me up a little bit. I literally had been making a conscious effort to go back and look at pictures of myself when I was younger to be like, girl, no, you were not fat. And for some reason, that's literally what was in my head was I was fat. I was a very thick girl. And it was really, I was just a Black girl. Like it was normal. And my frame just did not look like the Eurocentric body frame. And that's okay. But because there were no other Black girls that looked like me in those fashion spaces, you had Tyra Banks and you had Alec Weck, but they were, slims. They were very straight up and down, narrow, no curves. Well, they had curves, but it wasn't looking like what I was looking at in the mirror. Yeah. So it definitely messed me up for a little bit. But then I'll tell you, going to Western Senior High School, all girls school, only all girl public school in the country. Yay, Western High. I really, although it was just a dynamic of seeing so many different women and trying to find myself still in that space, I had different options of beauty to view. Like it was just, and if you are familiar with the girls at Western, like they are generally like the fashionable girls. Like it was the fashionettes. It was about the let out. Like all of the guys from Poly will be over there. Like it was a whole scene. So, I mean, I saw different variations of style from like those high updo, crunchity, crispity, hairdos from like soft feather wraps. And I saw some girls who were, very short shorts and short skirts, and then other girls who decided to do something a little bit more modest. So it was a lot more range than what I was accustomed to seeing, but it was also infused with a lot of creativity. And the fashionette space was something I had the pleasure of being involved in. And we actually created a whole production. Like there were scenes when like I had to be a rainbow and had to actually, exude that through my outfit. So I had to design it from scratch. So high school absolutely really kind of bumped up my enthusiasm and momentum to let me know like, oh, I can really make this a thing, just this transformation of fashion into how I see it and just being really creative with it.
Okay. So thank you for that answer. I was curious about your answer to that question because I know that as I've gotten older, I've had to, again, like you said, kind of go back and retrace a lot of, things from childhood. And one thing I realized is like the amount of programming that we are exposed to, messages from society about how we're supposed to look and how we're supposed to behave and, what box we're supposed to fit in. And then the healing that has to take place as a result of those messages. And so, I was just interested in hearing your perspective with fashion in particular and how like those messages impacted you. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So you just talked about high school kind of being well, no, you started really young, but high school was, I guess, where you started to be like, okay, I can make this a thing. So let's shift now and talk a bit about entrepreneurship because, you know, I know that that's where we bond and spend a lot of our time talking. I'm really interested in talking about the growth and the healing that often has to happen to find your place in entrepreneurship, to find your way in entrepreneurship. So tell me a bit about your journey and how you got started in entrepreneurship. And I'm particularly interested in hearing, were you one of those people that was born an entrepreneur or did you find your way into entrepreneurship after going a more traditional route?
I would say the latter. I definitely, I felt I had the spirit of an entrepreneur, but I didn't know or have the confidence at first until I just got sick of the traditional method. So it started for me, this entrepreneurial journey. I graduated from Morgan State University. And at that time, like I had started kind of dabbling in making pieces, but more or less just making them for myself to wear. So over that summer after graduation, I was working at a mortgage company. A good friend of mine, she saw my earrings and she kept saying like, yeah, I'm going to need a pair of those like right now. So I'm like, okay. And still that confidence piece, like it hadn't quite connected and kicked in for me. So I'm like, okay, I'll make you a pair, but not really with the full intention of like charging full price or charging a price even. It was like, okay, here, the materials cost this, just, you know, I'll break even, whatever, I'm fine. Then it got to a point where more women at the job were interested in pieces. And then I started to create the bracelets. This was before I called them healing hardware. I then started doing like little small pop-up shows. At the time, I was kind of transitioning from one job to another, which would, I guess, have been like maybe a career type of job, like one of those companies that you transition into and just stay there for like 15, 20 years. Me, on the other hand, I just felt so bored. Like going into an environment where I felt like only 30% of my full capacity of talent was used, just felt like I was in a box with my wings clipped. But I was also scared as hell because I'm like, but girl, like you got bills, like you can't just abandon adulthood. Like you really have to figure this out. And I know that that also was due to the programming of, you know, being a creative doesn't necessarily pay the bills. That's generally the message that I understood growing up because it was no one around me, honestly, that I felt had a thriving career as an artist. So it was always that, you know, broke artist type energy. So really having to kind of work out a light framework in my head as to how it would look for me to gain some stability and confidence in the space, to sell my wares, to do it consistently so that I can see some kind of revenue or some promise, and then make my decision from there. So that looked like me going out on a limb, making more products, and then doing pop-up shops. That was when they were just starting out. Like people were really into the phenomena of going somewhere that wasn't a physical store, but being able to purchase product. So I continue to do that. I'm really big on community and building relationships. So Peiju's restaurant was one of the places that hosted me free of charge, myself and another company, another high school homie of mine, Andrea Tomlin of Fly Nerd Apparel. We would pop up together and we would generate momentum there. And it would just be this thing, this cultural thing that just developed like, okay, so these are small business owners. This is what we do. We're going to go to happy hour. After the folks got off of their good Social Security Administration job, they would go over, they would, you know, get a drink, we would dance, we would cut up, but they would shop with us. And that to me was like, okay, so I'm seeing something. I'm seeing that there was energy in the space. I love the feeling of being able to connect with people, but most importantly, it was me being affirmed in my creativity and letting me know like, girl, you can do this. And most importantly, like what I told myself was going to be the gospel. So I had to make sure that I consistently sharpen that tool of confidence, and that just, like I said, being surrounded by other business owners or small businesses at that time, just starting out, helped as well, because we're all in the same boat. We're trying to figure this out. We're feeling out our way in the dark, but connecting with each other and then sharing notes was really helpful. And then it came to a point where I was just tired of my day job. So I just transitioned out. It was scary because, again, this whole building your business and that foundation and the structure and what it looks like to have it be successful it was really all so gray for me. Like I knew I wanted to be successful, but I understood that determining and defining success will be an evolving process for me. So like each year, my definition of success kind of changes. Right now, it looks like me just having that good work-life balance, because it ain't no fun if my family can't get none. You know what I mean? So I have to make sure that I'm there and present for them and not completely maxed out with work, but also generating revenue to continue to invest back into the business, but also to live the life that I love, of luxury and of ease and flow. So it's still an evolving process, but it definitely, me starting the traditional route and realizing like, this ain't it. This is not giving what it's supposed to give, catapulted me into trying to figure out what would be my future, what that could look like.
Thank you for that. I love what you said about how your definition of success or your idea of success has evolved as you have grown and continues to evolve like on an annual basis. And I think that that's so important, because I think that, at least for me, and I would say for a lot of people when they start out, like when we first start out, we just measure success based off of like monetary value. So it's like, if I achieve X number, then I'm successful. And then what happens is, if you don't achieve that number, right, you begin to feel like, oh, I'm not successful. I'm not good enough. I'm not doing this right. One of the, I don't remember which business coach it was, because I've had a few at this point, but I remember one of my business coaches making us sit down. I was in a group coaching program, making us sit down and really write out, like, what does success look like for you, right? Like, not from what you see on social media, not from what, you know, people are telling you it looks like on Instagram and all these things, but like, really, what does it look like for you? And one of the things that was important for me was like you said, that balance of, you know, is my family a priority? Am I overworking for this business thing? And it's a constant like reassessment of that. But yeah, I think that is such an important statement that you said to highlight, because again, we can be doing all the things, and if we haven't, you know, hit 7 figures, then we thinking we not successful, right? We're not accessing all of these other aspects of our lives and our businesses, you know, and the wins that we've made. So having a version of success for you, and then, like you said, being okay with updating that as you grow and evolve and your business grows and evolves I think is so important.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to add, like, I mean, because we're multidimensional beings, and it goes back to me to what you said, as far as this, you know, we talk about unlearning and relearning and so forth, and just who told us that that was success, you know? Like sometimes, like I question asker, I'm curious, I'm just going to ask questions, because sometimes things need to be questioned so you can understand, like, well, let's get to the root of this to understand, like, why are we even following this path? So for me, that again, it just looks like me asking questions in every area of my life, and even just me to be honest with myself. Like, are you feeling this? Do you like this? And that's all a part of the healing journey as well, because if we're not honest with ourselves, we are on autopilot, and we're generally in those spaces, we're seeking external validation, which is never the move at all.
I agree. So you talked about confidence a bit when you were just sharing your story. What you mentioned that being around other business owners was helpful for you, learning from them, being in that community was helpful with building your confidence. But what were some other things that helped you to build confidence personally and then also as an entrepreneur? And I asked that question because I know for myself and a lot of people, when you start out, like that is a place where we typically, you know, struggle like with having confidence and believing in yourself and that sort of thing. So can you just share a bit about what that looks like for you or has looked like for you building confidence?
And continues to look like for me. Got it. It looks like just doing it scared. It looks like starting now and perfecting later. It looks like not being so in my head so much about all of those little things that essentially are my way of self-sabotaging my forward movement, my upward movement. So it's always just about just doing it, just not giving yourself an excuse, continuing to practice, stay in practice. I am a professional in the space of style, and I still am always, sometimes to a fault, overthinking about things. But I've also learned to develop more simplicity, and that's helped me as well, because overthinking, that does what it does as well. But just making sure that you are practiced and just continue to repeat and just find ways to refine your process. And also take out those things that you don't like doing. I know I've mentioned this to you before. It's just sometimes as an entrepreneur, I think we take on tasks because we feel like we have to do all of the things. But there are absolutely things that's just like, if it does not bring you joy, let's figure out a way to take that off of your plate. whether that looks like outsourcing to someone if you can afford it, and or finding a different approach to the process with a little bit more time, if you have that. But it's just been about continuing to stay in practice, never thinking that I have it all figured out, always staying a student, always being willing to learn and be open to growth. Like I learn from everywhere. I say I hear God's voice often just all around me because I remain open to just continuing to learn. I think when you stop learning, you stop growing. So.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Always being open to learning. Yes, I agree with that. Okay, so let's shift now and talk about healing a bit. And a wonderful way to open up this conversation is to talk about healing hardware. So what is healing hardware? What inspired you to create healing hardware? And what's your vision?
So the Healing Hardware Collection, I coined that name as I was emerging out of a depression from motherhood, this new space of welcoming a new child into the world, but also rebirthing myself in a way. I really had to sit with myself and understand like what is going on here, because I was feeling all of these things, not only just as a new mom, but as a daughter, and just, what I learned from my parents and just understanding how I wanted to show up for my daughter. It was just something that felt like the stones were speaking to me as I continued to like really get into the trenches and understand the different materials. I just wanted to play around more with different types of indigenous stones as well. So the Healing Hardware Collection are a unique series of just wearable art pieces that I create by hand. They do feature natural healing stones, and each piece tells a story. And my focus in creating this collection was to get people thinking more intentionally about how we adorn our bodies. And historically, adornments are, like a political act as well, because in some cultures, people were denied the right to wear specific luxuries and such. You weren't able to wear gold or fine silks and so forth. So it's like, this is my form of a revolution through art. And I just love to be able to create, and I love the stories that people share. And as they wear them, out and about in their day, it just feels good to like see people taking pictures while they're doing their dope thing. And it's just my little love note to the world. Like, be careful with yourself, take care of you always. Be mindful of how you nurture yourself. And I just feel like they're just small stepping stones to that bigger picture of self-care.
Okay. So what a perfect segue.
Hey everyone, I want to pause the episode for a quick second to share some info about Evolve. Evolve is Move and Still's signature program designed for social justice and human-centered businesses and organizations who are committed to leveling up their wellness programs. If you're listening to this and you lead or are a part of a team, then Evolve may be a great offering for your team. Or you might be a leader in a community organization and you're considering wellness programs for your beneficiaries. Either way, we got you. Evolve is a series of customized wellness programs focused on reducing stress and burnout. Our workshops offer a combination of trauma-informed somatic practices, including yoga, breathwork, and meditation, followed by a facilitated wellness education session, which provides your group with skills and tools to live less stressed and more aligned and productive. If you'd like to learn more and experience our approach firsthand, I invite you to join me for a free 30-minute group breathwork session. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot. Now, let's get back to the episode.
You talked about motherhood and how healing hardware was inspired because of your experience with birthing life. And, like you said, how you had to really go through a rebirth process of your own. So I have witnessed in my own experience, and then also in talking with others, that our trauma shows up in everything we do, right? From the way that we love to the way that we parent, if we have children. And of course, it shows up in our business as entrepreneurs. So how have your past experiences shaped your business and motherhood for you as well? And then what has healing and evolving look like for you?
Oh, this is a good one. Honestly, it's been so easy it's all connected for me. For me, the best way to build my business was just to keep it 100. So you'll see themes throughout every piece and fiber of my work. whether it's the Vibe So High t-shirts, which essentially mean, when you're feeling filled to the brim with goodness, when your vibe is high, when you're like excited, joyful, enthused, like be out here, like so that you can beam for people to see so that they can absorb that vibe. Like we need more of that goodness out in the world. And adversely, if you're not feeling it, go in the house, take care of yourself, save yourself. That's actually a little enamel pin that I had as well, save yourself, because oftentimes I think folks get into the space of thinking that other people are to come to their rescue and their aid, even with our parents and so forth. And it's just like, no, baby, we have to take care of ourselves. When we get to a point of adulthood and we know that we have this agency over our lives, it's up to us to really protect and nurture ourselves. Like nobody is going to put on a cape and come rescue us. So those themes and just those empowering statements and so forth, I really work into every fiber of what I create with New Vintage by Sam, in addition to a new book that I just created called Dressed in Motherhood, Self-Care Through Style Workbook. So that in that space, I'm taking a loving, soft, nurturing approach to helping people get dressed and to see themselves differently. When you think of a mother, she's soft and just there for you, present, rubbing your back, there for the boo-boos and so forth. So you don't really parallel that in the fashion space, but that's what I wanted to do because, again, inclusivity for me was not a thing in fashion. And I know there are absolutely people out here who don't come outside of the house because they feel like they don't have that special outfit to wear. They don't own a quilted Chanel bag or have red bottoms in their closet. So they're not going to go to that brunch or to that networking meeting. So it's just really about, having and delivering a soft energy, a love energy to the space of fashion and art, and just creating dope items for folks to wear and, go out and do their own thing in.
So congratulations on launching Dressed in Motherhood. I've been able to kind of, from sitting back, watch you build this and, start it from an idea and then you kind of just started working it. So to be here now, I'm sure you're really excited. Why do you feel like it was so important for you to create Dressed in Motherhood, this book, and to help other women in this way with finding healing and expressing themselves creatively with their individual style?
My background is in public health. I went to Morgan State University. We did all kinds of case studies and such. So I'm really big on like analytics and data. So every time I would come in contact with my clients, my guests, I would hear a lot of the same things, just as far as I would never think to put this color with that color, or I don't think about maybe having a power word to kind of help me choose how I want to feel in this look before I go shopping. And just knowing that we can absolutely, there's value in sitting with ourselves, being still. And the way that I explain it, and also this is outlined in the book, like we take a lot of time, sometimes doing so many other things. We do meal planning, we go to the gym, but when it comes to getting dressed, we kind of like wait till the last minute. We dress, we buy things, and they just sit in the closet forever, ever with the tags on it. So it's just about having that conversation with yourself. Like, so why do I do this? And why am I still holding on to this purse from 20 years ago? Why do I have this dress and it only fit me before I had these kids, So it's a more tender conversation with yourself, but also with the goal of you seeing yourself differently and thus, dressing in a way that helps you to just step out of the house and just shine. I just want folks to just show up in their respective ministry and not be slighted by these superficial things, because unfortunately the world is really feeding us these messages that make us feel like we aren't enough, we haven't met the mark. And I just know that not to be true. So this is my way of packaging up that message, but under the guise of style.
Okay. So where can women get Dressed in Motherhood if they are interested in the book?
So you can actually follow the Dressed in Motherhood Instagram page, and there is a link tree there. It's available now to download on Kindle, and the hard print copy will be out in fall.
Yes, we love that. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so my last question for you about entrepreneurship. Oftentimes when we pivot out of a traditional 9-to-5 job, corporate America. We start our businesses and we are programmed by the standards that were imposed upon us in our previous work experiences. So in some instances, right, this can be good. But in other situations, it can also be toxic because it makes us feel like workhorses and we're struggling to find balance, boundaries, take breaks without feeling guilty. One of the things that I really admire about you as a more seasoned entrepreneur, in comparison with me for sure, is the way that you have really built this culture you want to carry as you work with others. So my question for you is, why was it so important for you to create your own process and culture in your brand?
Come on, sister. It was important for me because if we are establishing new spaces, we are creating new environments for ourselves, we are changing the narrative, then all that mess that we've learned has to go because, well, not all of it. Some of the pieces can stay, but the bulk majority of it, which is rooted in just that fear of lack and that, just that workhorse mentality, it's just, it's not sustainable. And, my definition of success is inclusive of making sure that I have time for my husband and my child. So there's no possible way that me as a singular micro enterprise solo entrepreneur can, possibly keep up those same standards that they have in these corporate environments. And furthermore, to be honest with you, they don't even value the folks that's there. They say they do, they have human resources and everything, but that's really to protect them, right? It's not to oversee and make sure that the employees are cool. It's really to just cover the fanny of the business if anything goes awry. But for me, it's like, even in building my team, I need my team to know, like, so listen, I'm invested in you because this is not just about me paying you. This is about me trying to understand how I can help you grow, because those that I welcome on my team are also aligned with my company core values as well. Right now, one of my teammates is an active study of yoga. Another really wants to just build community and safe spaces for women to come together and congregate and just create. So to me, it's about, that extra step of consideration, not just, profit and bottom line. So that looks a little different, you know what I mean, when it comes to the step of how I'm building everything. And the guests and the customers, they feel that, you know what I mean? Like, they feel that with my team because they know, like, I welcome folks on there that are going to maintain that same energy. So even if Sam isn't in the room, you get somebody who is giving good vibes and can share information and so forth. So it's about harmony. It's about consideration and love all throughout my process. So I make sure I take my time with that as well. And as I grow, just continuing to take inventory and audit, like, okay, so what's working and what's not, so we can just continue to move forward and upward.
Yeah, what I really love about that is that it really kind of, like, you can take a both and approach, right? Because I think a lot of times we think that in order to be successful, you have to be the workhorse and you have to constantly grind and you got to, burn yourself out and you got to go. And you have to build a team that functions in the same way. And the more that I learn from more seasoned entrepreneurs such as yourself and just, business coaches, mentors, all of those sorts of things, the most successful people have also found that balance. Like, maybe we start out that way because I think typically we do, right? We jump into entrepreneurship and it's like, I got to feed my family. I got to pay these bills. I got to put food on the table. And so maybe the first couple of years of business, it is that sort of workhorse, go mentality. But a lot of times we slow down and you begin to realize, like, that business is important. My business entrepreneurship is important, but it's not everything. And then you begin to find that sort of, I do want to be successful and I want to have balance and I want to have time for family and I want to build a team that cares about the work deeply, that sort of thing. So I really wanted to stress that because I think for me, I'm still, it's still in the early process for me, but working, having the pleasure of being able to observe folks like you and just, the way that you, like, have kind of built your business out, it has been helpful for me as a newer entrepreneur to even think about like the type of business I want to build and just being more intentional about that. Like oftentimes, like I said, we're going, we don't even think about it. And then, you know, we don't necessarily think about it until we get to the place of burnout. But I'm kind of like, well, what if I don't have to burn out, right? Like, what if I don't have to, of course I'm going to be tired sometimes. What if I don't have to burn out to change the way that my business is structured? What if I just build a business that functions in that way? And that's not what I learned from my corporate or nonprofit background. It was, you know, it's just function, go, do all the time. So before we move on from this, can you share, I've borrowed one or two from you from my work, but can you share some of the ways for those listening that are curious that you have established those boundaries in your business? So you have talked about, you know, building out a team that has integrity where if you're not in the picture, you know, they can hold up your values. But what else does that look like for you?
That looks like developing language that is, I'm really big on trying to make sure I'm clear in my communication and set the tone and standard for my processes with clients, guests, before we work together, during our work together, and after, just so it could, you know, be completely explicit as to what they can expect from me. That looks like me making sure they know my office hours are from, you know, this time to this time. But in addition to that, just letting them know that outside of that time, I will be happy to respond to you on the next business day, and just making sure that I do not overpromise and underdeliver. So that's why I just make sure I give myself a good window to make sure I just properly prepare for them as well. I don't want anyone working with me to feel rushed, to feel like this is just something that's pay your invoice and get it done. That is never the case at all. And to me, that is not net the best outcome for projects in my creativity process. So it's about taking my time with them, but being very explicit about what I can do, but also what I need them to do to help me. Because sometimes, and I'm sure you understand this, you know, we show up as the professional, but then there's other teammates or other parties perhaps that may not reciprocate or show up in that way. So just being clear about timelines and everything, and just being explicitly communicative helps tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned this earlier, but like you said, you know, as a small business or a solopreneur, oftentimes we look at larger businesses, larger companies, and it's like, oh, I want to be like them, right? And we try to, as a one man show, right? Try to emulate these whole corporate entities and their policies and their practices and their Amazon, you know, next day, same day timelines. And it's not realistic. And so I love the idea of just level setting from the jump. Like, I'm not about to get you a 2-day delivery like Amazon, because I'm not, you know, I don't have that sort of structure. And just that shift alone in our programming of not trying to be or compete with those larger entities as a one person show or a small, you know, small business. I think that right there can take so much pressure off of how we show up in our business and the ways that we execute. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Appreciate that too. Trust me, it creates longevity in your, you know, in your audience, because they know what they'll get when they get with you.
Yeah, that's important. So let's talk a bit now about motherhood, because I know, again, something we have in common. And I think so many of our conversations are about those kids. So what has healing looked like since becoming a mother? And what are some of the ways that you continue to reparent yourself? And I ask you this question because I know that, you know, for folks that are aware and conscious of our own ways that we need to heal and our own programming and beliefs, like when you become a parent, it sort of amplifies all the things, all the spaces and the places that you have to work on. So yeah, share a bit about, you know, what that has been like for you with your beautiful daughter. And then again, just how you continue as you parent her, how you continue to love on and parent yourself.
Oh, such a great question. It started for me, motherhood, and that whole process of just trying to navigate those spaces and also like shut out any external judgments for how everybody else decided to raise their kid or do their hair or whatever the case is. Like for me, the healing started with quieting the noise from everybody else. And that was kind of hard to do because as a new mom, it's like you want the insight from others. But what I recognized was it was doing something to me, i.e., making me frustrated or just a sense of overwhelm. Like, I don't know what y'all think I'm going to do, but I'm not about to just do all of these things by myself. Like, y'all crazy. So I think sometimes, generationally, there's a difference also in like the mothering styles. So that had its moment as well. So that's why quieting the noise was so important for me. And once I was able to do that and really develop my own voice in this motherhood space, I knew I wanted to be soft. I wanted to love and just hug my baby all the time. Some mommies don't be doing that. That ain't none of my business. But I I knew things had to be different for me. I just wanted to be able to foster this relationship with my daughter. And I know that she did not ask to be here, and for me, it was about making sure that I took an approach of tenderness to my time with her, because I did not want her to feel any energy of me being annoyed or frustrated or hasty. So I quieted the noise, and then I made sure I tended to myself. And then I would put her in spaces where she could have her moments with friends and other people who loved and nurtured her, while I was able to get some time away to nurture myself. As I got confident in my mothering, then I began to be a little bit more open to hearing some of the voices, but it was now with a filter of just my own interpretation of what motherhood was. But it made me less defensive, if that makes sense. So that was something that I actively continued to work on, because I knew that in the mothering space, I was dealing with some things that, like, oh my gosh, like this is really coming to the surface right now. I had no idea that I might have mommy issues until, I had my daughter. It was just this questioning again of all of the things. But now I've continued to evolve in my mothering. And what that looks like is just making sure I create community for us, because she needs a community of homegirls, basically some A1 day ones that I can sign off on, because there's going to come a time when she's just going to be out in the world and meeting people that I can't necessarily have as much control over those variables. So for me, building her community is important, but building my community is important as well. I'm real big on mommy and me groups, and let's get these girls together. Let's do a makeup date. Let's go to the park, because the girls and the kids need times together, just like the moms need moments together. And the children are just a ball of energy. And as an entrepreneur and a wife, that energy just don't be given what it's supposed to give sometimes. I say to Blake all the time, honey, if I could take your energy and bottle it up and sell it on Amazon, we would be good to go, because you would have 2 nannies, like we would be straight. So I just recognize, like, and community continues to save me. We were on a Girl Scouts call last night, and one of the moms wants to step up and do some things. I'm like, well, perfect, great. I love her. She's awesome. I want to support her, but I know I can't be extra super Girl Scout mom. So what I can do is support her. So just being open to welcoming new folks into the village and just building a community for all of us. I think that's necessary in all of the things. Moms, wives, kids. We just need a shoulder to lean on and a space to breathe,
So from what I'm hearing, a part of your healing has looked like building an intentional community to help you with this process of mothering.
Yeah, absolutely. And the conversations alone are just transformative. Me and you and I have had some great dialogue. So it's like,
I love that. So talk to us a bit about what your soul care toy box looks like. And I differentiate soul care versus self-care, because a lot of times, self-care is this, especially since COVID, like it's this buzzword now, and everyone gets their nails done and their hair done and all of the things. But to me, it's a deeper level. Like we do have that physical level of like taking care of our bodies, which I know how important that is. But there's also like, is my heart doing good today? Like, how's my soul doing good today? And checking in with those deeper aspects of ourselves. How is my mental health? Like, how is my mind? So thinking about all of those things, what does it look like for you to nourish your soul?
Well, for me, that looks like I quiet my mind a lot. I oftentimes, it's weird because I feel like driving now has become one of my meditative practices. Like I love to just drive in silence, especially on the back roads with like lots of greenery. That really does something for me. Like it's just, sometimes listening to music, it just continues to fill your brain with all of these things. And those thoughts sometimes are just not even your own. You start to feel things and you're like, how did I get here? I'm my heart broken. What's going on? So turning the radio off and the music off is definitely one of my things while I drive. I am really big on taking off my shoes and just going outside and walking in the grass.
Such a good one.
Love a good grounding moment. I'm also huge Okay, on the adverse, we started off with no music. On the back end, we're going to finish it off with a dope playlist, specifically Burna Boy Radio or something like international music that really puts me in a different place too. I love to be transformed through music. Like just transport me to another place in an environment where I'm not seeing what I'm seeing in my surroundings, but I'm envisioning maybe where I want to go, but also just moving my body. Like I love to dance like that. To me, I just feel like my body just moves to the music and I don't even know what goes on, but I just feel like it's some crazy spirit call when I get into a mode because I just feel like I get lost in the movement and I love it.
Yes. I don't know. I think I'm like reconnecting with nature because I used to just be like moving and going all the time that I just never used to slow down for nature and appreciate her enough. But I've been hearing, I had been hearing about like, just go out and sit in nature, connect with nature. And I started being like, I would go out and sit and like be on my yoga mat, but it's different when you talked about taking your shoes off and just going out and grounding. Girl, I've started doing that. And when I say that's a whole game changer in my life, last week I was feeling some really heavy emotions about, just a lot of the things that are going on in my life. And I was feeling a lot of like loneliness. I did just that. I went out, I took a break from my day and I went out and I just walked on the earth. And it was crazy that like when I just gave myself that moment to, as one of my breathwork mentors says, he says, just like be with the feelings. And when he first told me that, I was just like, sir, what are you talking about? Like, how do I just sit with the loneliness? But he's just like, because oftentimes we try to like cope it away. So I'll try to do something to make it go away. He's like, what if you just held space to be with the loneliness? And I thought he was a little bit crazy, but I was like, I'm gonna just like try to entertain this, not even fully understanding what it meant. But that's exactly what I did. So I went out and I took my shoes off and I just like kind of just welcome in the feeling that I was feeling. And I just started walking around on Morgan's campus because it's not too far from my house in a green space by myself. And when I say that it was like the medicine that like my heart and soul needed, girl, I started ugly crying and like talking to my 4-year-old self. And people, I think we underestimate just like how much nature can like really hold us down if we let her. So that's just such a good one. Because when I finished, by the time I got back in the car to head home, I was like, oh, I'm so much better, like so much lighter. It was like I had just allowed all of that energy to just absorb through my feet and just go, you know what I mean? And I felt so like held and protected. So y'all, that's a really good one. Just like really going out and just grounding in nature. And it's one thing to sit in nature, but it's another thing to put your feet in nature and connect with nature in that way.
Yes. It feels different.
It does. It definitely hits different. So we talked about dressed in motherhood. Is there anything else that you are working on or recently finished that you'd like to share, or maybe something that's coming up that you're excited about that you want to share with listeners?
There are a few things that I'm working on, but I'm real big on pacing myself just to allow myself grace. This is all a part of the journey of just continuing to not be a workhorse and not be on to the next project, But I would say I would love if everyone here, if you are digging these vibes, definitely check me out on Instagram because I continue the conversation there and always am about this life. And I will always be announcing any new moves or projects there as well. So Instagram is New Vintage by Sam. And you can also peep out the Healing Hardware collection if you visit www.newvintagebysam.com. And of course, you can always visit the Instagram Dressed in Motherhood to check out the Self-Care Through Style workbook as well.
And I will be sure to link everything in the show notes for y'all to catch all those links and resources and connect with Sam easier. Okay, my love, the final question.
Yes.
So I believe that life is our biggest teacher. What is one major lesson that you have learned that you want to leave with our listeners today?
Take care of you always.
So simple.
Yeah, very simple. Straight to the point.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We forget about ourselves though, so that's a good one. What is it? Put your mask on first before you go tend to everyone else. Yeah. Yes.
Take care of you. It allows you to just, feel what you need to feel and not expect it from everyone else. You show up better that way. You're already full.
That's real. So any final thoughts, Sam, before we close out today?
I really enjoyed this time talking. Like, this has been wonderful. Like, I feel like this is great. We have to get the little one. Like, you know, got to get some of that 6-year-old energy in my life. So, well, this is perfect. I enjoyed it. And I pray you got something out of it too.
Oh, I did. I enjoyed it too. Thank you so much for coming on. I love our conversations. They always leave me feeling full. So I'm really grateful today.
Same.
Well, everyone, thank y'all for tuning in to another episode. That is all for today. I'm going to leave you all the same way that I will leave you after every episode. I want to remind you to keep releasing, keep reconnecting, and keep remembering. Until the next time we are together again, school is out.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the School of Healing. You can check out the show notes to connect and learn more about any resources that were mentioned today. If you're on Instagram, let me know what resonated with you. Take a screenshot, share it in your stories, and tag me so that we can stay connected. Be sure to rate, review, and follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Especially be sure to rate and review the podcast if you really liked it. If you didn't, that's okay too.